talking Georgia recruiting. We got Savannah Lee Richardson on the line from Dawn of the Dog. Savannah, Kirby Smart, once again, what's new? Bringing in talent left and right in play for the number one player at each position, the top 5 guys at each position, on and on and on. I will just cut you loose and let you go because it involves the kind of the storylines right now, the 2 of the top running backs in the country.
Yeah, Zachary Evans from North Shore in Houston, Texas, and Kendall Milton both in the last couple of weeks have released their top 4 and top 5, and Georgia being in both of them. Texas, interesting because you see Texas running backs like that all the time stay home. Like you see so many Georgia running backs stay home and so on and so on. But it's interesting to see, and I'm really excited to get him on campus because I wouldn't count him out at all. I don't know exactly what Dale McGee has been telling him, but Georgia has been selling the program hard for him. And the cool thing about it is all of these running backs know that Georgia's going to take two. So, and the greatest thing about it, you see Georgia share carries with running backs. And so I think that's the best selling pitch is how they've had Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel both go for 1,000 yards. And then you also have Elijah Holyfield and DeAndre Swift both go for 1,000 yards. As a recruit, I'm looking at, I can get equal playing time and still get my 1,000 yards and still get NFL, scouts looking at me and stuff. So Zach Evans and Kendall Milton both are 2 guys that I'm excited to get on campus for OVs, and I'm excited to see if we can actually reel both of them in because, in my opinion, the number 1 running back with Zach Evans, and then Kendall is the number 3 running back. So the number 1 and the number 3 overall running back, that's 2 more 5-stars adding to Georgia. That's huge. And I did a piece on Kendall because I kind of interviewed Kendall back probably almost 2 years ago now and got to know him a little bit, and I've seen him grow. He's 6'2", 220 pounds. That's a running back. That's huge. That reminds me of, I can't think of the Alabama guy that was that big, but he was a tall running back. He's in the NFL now. But
Derrick Henry?
Yes, Derrick Henry. He reminds me a lot of him, but his 40 on his 247 profile is a little deceiving. I think he had a bad day at the Nike opening when he clocked that, and I think he's more in the 4.5 range versus the 4.7 range. But the piece I did on him, I gave him a pretty impressive nickname. Looks like he is so smooth running. So I named him a Cadillac Bruiser because Cadillacs are smooth riding, and then he's also not afraid to take a tackle or make somebody miss a tackle. So, if Kendall sees this, your new nickname is the Cadillac Bruiser because there's not another running back like him. And then,
I'll buy it. I'll go with it. I can't really poke holes in it off the top of my head. Cadillac Bruiser. Cadillacs are smooth.
They're luxury.
Classy. They're elite. They're elegant. Sure. Go with it.
I
Get it out there.
Writing that article.
Hashtag that baby.
And I liked it. And then the biggest area for Georgia's had successful May. He picked up Mikael Sherman, one of the top, the number 2 outside linebacker in the entire country out of Washington, D.C., picked us over Bama and various other schools, and I really like him. He's already selling the program, kind of like Richard LeCount and Jake Fromm did back in the day. And then Georgia's biggest emphasis, we also got Tate Ratledge, who committed in May as well. He's a 6'6.5", 311 offensive tackle from Rome, Georgia. He recently got his 5th star on Rivals, but he's still considered a 4-star on Dogs 247. So he's someone to really watch out. He's also doing a lot of recruiting for the Dogs. Really excited about him. He has grit. I like his footwork, and he is not a big stiff board like some offensive tackles you see coming out of high school. He's got some movement to him. Defensive line. Georgia just picked up on June 1st Warren Brinson, who recommitted to the Dogs after, deciding back in January to reopen his recruitment and look at other schools. It was between Georgia and Florida, and yet again, Georgia got another prospect out of IMG away from the Florida Gators, and I just think it's incredible what Kirby's doing going into the state of Florida with his staff and plucking almost essentially whoever, whenever he wants, just like Carson Beck's a quarterback that we picked up earlier this year. But there's also Jacoby Cowan has recently visited. He has got Georgia up there, and that could be another defensive. I think he's a defensive tackle or is he a defensive end? One of the guys. Regardless, I think Georgia's going to have a huge defensive line class. This is the year that Trey Scott has to nail recruiting. He's gotten by the last few seasons, picking up here and there and stuff, but this is the year. 2020 is one of the best defensive line classes that we have seen in a long time. And you've already got Jamil Burrows, Nazir Stackhouse, and Warren Brinson committed well. He could eventually earn a 5th star as well. I think he's getting closer and closer on Rivals, more so than on 247. So that's your 4 defensive tackles that Georgia has now. But Georgia's also in the hunt for Jordan Burke. And Birch or Burke, it's Burch, either way. Jordan, I'm sorry if I ruined or,
I'm going to go Birch.
Birch. Okay, we're going to go with Birch. He is kind of right now a Clemson, South Carolina lean, but I don't see South Carolina pulling in another 5-star defensive lineman 2 years in a row. That's just kind of not the Gamecock speed, and I hate to throw the Gamecocks or anything under the bus. It's just how history has said and how it's all gone. But Clemson already has Brian Breesy, Miles Murphy, Demente Capehart, and Trey Williams committed. They also have the number 1 recruiting class, and 3 of those, I believe, are 5 stars. They have 5 stars right now on 247's recruiting class, and it's incredible to see Clemson do that well. But at the same time, you got to think Birch is looking at it like, I might want to play early. Well, that's Georgia's in. Georgia's not all. Georgia's got to get him on campus, sell that he has the potential to earn some reps playing time, because this 2020 class, for Georgia anyway, they're all going to have to step up, because Georgia will be losing Julian Rochester after this year, Tyler Clark, I believe. There's, I think, 6 or 7 defensive line guys that are either exhausting eligibility or have the potential to declare early. Jordan Davis is going to be one of the only guys left for the defensive line, and that's kind of scary. So Georgia has to nail this 2020 defensive line class, and I think that's a great way to pull in Birch. It's telling him playing time early. Eric Taylor, a 4-star defensive tackle out of Alabama, is another guy to kind of keep an eye out on. He might be down a little lower on Georgia's list, but if he continues to grow like he is and get better and a little bit bigger, he could eventually be a hot commodity between Alabama and Clemson and LSU and Georgia. Moving on to the next thing in my last part, because I know I've been rambling for a little while now. Tight ends, Arik Gilbert from Marietta. Sometimes he says Arik, sometimes people say Eric. We're going to call him Arik because that's what somebody from one of my buddies who works with the program and knows him kind of well has seen him a few times. That's what he calls himself. So we're going to say Arik. 5-star, 6'6.5", I think, close to that range anyway, 6'5", 6'6.5", and he wants to play tight end at the next level. He's the size of an outside linebacker. He could probably play wherever he wanted to on the football field, but he wants to be a tight end, and I love it. I love a big tight end. I love someone who can catch the ball well, block well, and do anything he needs to on the football field to help his team, and I really like Georgia's chances right now. Got to get him on campus again, but I think it's going to end up being, and as weirdly as this sounds, a Tennessee-Georgia battle for him, because his quarterback from Marietta is currently committed to Tennessee, Harrison Bailey. But I don't know necessarily how long he might stay committed to Tennessee, because Tennessee has been openly recruiting other quarterbacks. Anyway, there's also Darnell Washington, who is another tight end athlete who could probably play wherever he wants to on the field that Georgia is kind of interested in. Theo Johnson is what I think it's Theo Johnson, but he's more of a Michigan lean. And then there's also another Jalen Carter, who is a tight end that Georgia recently offered. He put Georgia in his top schools as well. And so there's a ton of movement with Todd Hartley coming in, offering some big time tight end names and selling the program to selling Georgia to them, even though Georgia hasn't utilized the tight ends as much as they should have in the last few years. Justin Flo is another name that I really want the guys to get on campus. He's a 5-star linebacker, and that would be an awesome – I don't think Georgia takes more than 2 linebackers this class, maybe 3 tops. And it would be complete, in my opinion, if you got Justin Flo and Mikael Sherman. And then my final note is Keely Ringo, the number 1 cornerback out of Arizona. I think you have to beat the Dogs right now. I think it's Georgia's race to lose, because his mom and him seem to have a great time for the scavenger hunt a few weeks ago. She even held a humongous, albino python for pictures and everything, and they just seem to have a blast. He is one of my bigger targets circled, and I hope I get to speak with him, fingers crossed. And then Dwight McLaughlin is the other cornerback that I'm really high on to join Jalen Kimber, who is already in the class. I think I nailed every position. I hope so anyway.
I hope you did too.
I forgot to mention
too many players.
Well, I forgot to mention, because you're the Ohio State guy. I gotta throw a little bit dig at you.
I'm the voice of college football.
Well, true, but you do have a little partiality to Ohio State. Anyway, Paris Johnson Jr., who is an offensive tackle. Sir? What did you say?
I said a smidge.
Oh, just a smidge. Well, everybody has their team. I'm a dog, and I'm not afraid to say it, but we all have to, you're the voice of college football, and we have to do it unbiasedly, and that's awesome. And I love it. But everybody has a little biasness. Anyway, Paris Johnson Jr. got on a rant, has been suspiciously tweeting, Instagramming, reposting a ton of Georgia stuff, liking a ton of Georgia recruiting stuff. And I'm not saying he's on Flip Watch, but I'm not saying he's not on Flip Watch either, because if anybody can do it, I think Sam Pittman could be the guy to flip Paris Johnson Jr., and that would just kind of be the icing on the cake. That'd be another 5-star offensive lineman for the Dogs, and that would be almost too good to be true, to be honest. But
well, Buckeyes fans don't want to hear that, of course, but especially considering that it was last season that Jackson Carman, the number one offensive tackle in the nation, had committed to Ohio State, and he flipped very late to Clemson. So that happening with the number one offensive tackle 2 consecutive years would be a little tough to take.
Yeah, it would.
All righty, Savannah Lee Richardson breaking down the Dogs on the recruiting front, which has been a prosperous place for Kirby Smart and the staff the last 3 years. Savannah, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.